Just wait a second to make sure we're connecting. Live video is starting. Hey, what's up, everyone? Taylor Wright here from the Canadian Tradition. Thanks so much for joining us, and a huge shout out to Cabela's Canada for tossing me the keys to your Facebook site again. Earlier in the year, we had a chance to connect just before turkey season, and I shared some tips and tactics on things I do or the crew does to maybe get the step up on a long beard. And then we connected once again just before spring fishing season started and kind of went over the same thing. With hunting season right around the corner, now is a great time to get together, to chit chat, to pick up on subtle tips or tricks that you might be able to implement in the fall so that you too can have some crazy amount of success. And what a better way to do it than right here at Cabela's Facebook Live page. Another big thing with hunting season right around the corner is that now is a great time to go through your gear. So if you need to restock or replenish or maybe upgrade into some of the newest, latest, greatest equipment, now is a great time. It's the Fall Hunting Classic over at our friends Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops. I've seen some of the deals, and I tell you, they don't get much better than this. So on this talk, again, they've tossed me the keys to their Facebook Live, and they wanted me to talk about trail cameras, what we use, why we use them, and how we use them to have more success in the field or just day to day, how we stay updated with what's going on at our hunting spots. So, without further ado, all of you, if you've watched the show, know that we roll with the folks from Spy Point Trail Cameras. And there's a few reasons why we do this. We've been able to work with Spy Point for the last 5 or 6 years and have seen that innovation go from traditional trail cameras to cellular trail cameras to their super user friendly app that allows you to stay connected and up to date with what's going on at your hunting spot. So I've kind of laid out this talk into a couple different categories. We'll try to stay on topic. I might venture one way or the other, but bear with me and we're going to get through this. The first thing, I kind of narrowed it down, and when I knew I was going to be talking about trail cameras, I wanted to come up with 3 reasons why I love running these spy points. First reason is they simply work. And I'm not overly hard on my equipment. I don't beat up my truck. I don't beat up my tracker boat. And excuse me, Spy Point, if you're watching this, trail cameras fall under the category of where, yeah, I use them and I use them and I abuse them. And I'm not throwing them around in the woods. What I mean by that is a lot of the cases, if we're traveling Canada, we'll set up these trail cameras and we might not get back to checking them for a year, especially if we're setting our trail cameras up out west. We only get back there once or twice a year, and those trail cameras are taking a massive amount of abuse. Heat, rain, the sun, freezing temperatures, and these little things just keep on ticking. And that's what I love. Very seldom do we have any downtime, and those cameras just seem to keep on ticking. How do they work? How has that innovation changed? How have I seen that going from traditional trail cameras to cellular trail cameras? And I wanted to provide an example of, the thing that really put me on the track of using cellular trail cameras. And might get off topic here, but this is a good example. This was one of the first years that SpyPoint came out with their cellular trail camera. And I think that little puppy there is the Link Dark LTE. And that buck we call Heart Attack. It is one of the biggest whitetails that I've ever had the pleasure of bow hunting. And I want to provide a little background story on how this photo came to be. So I have an absolute privilege to hunt a tract of private ground. The family that owns it manages the property incredibly well. And for me, it's an absolute privilege to walk onto that property each and every fall because it is some of the best, some of the craziest deer habitat that I have seen. And it's very low pressure. I mean, very common. We're in our stand and we'll see mature bucks walking around in daylight. And other than that place, I mean, those instances are few and far between. So whenever I head to that farm, it's just a relief. It puts a little pep in my step that there are big deer on their feet in non pressured situations. with Heart Attack, we had, I connected with him the fourth year, and I figure he was 6 or 7 years old when we finally were able to run into him. But for 3 years previous, Heart Attack was on the farm. He was very visible. Now, I wouldn't see him every sit, but I'd see him every other sit, every third sit. It still gave me a ton of hope that no matter what time you got in the stand, anything could happen and Heart Attack could walk right around the corner and my season could be complete. For 3 years, we hunted him pretty hard and just couldn't close the gap. I think the closest we got was maybe 80 yards, and it just seemed that when we zigged, he zagged. We moved over here, he was over here. It was a bit of a cat and mouse game, but one of the great things about Heart Attack is he lived on the farm. I had multiple trail cameras on the farm, and almost daily he would appear on multiple trail cameras. He was just there. We ended our season not getting him, which really had me have high hopes because I know he was going to kind of reach his prime there. After this year, he'd probably start kind of dwindling down, but I thought this fourth year, he's going to be a good buck and I'm going to pursue him. So I set those trail cameras up in July and watched the months roll by. July, August, September, October, not a photo of Heart Attack. My heart kind of sank as I'm thinking, how is a deer that has been so visible his whole life just vanished? How have I not got a photo of him running, multiple trail cameras, a half a dozen trail cameras on this farm? November rolled by, and that's kind of when I hit, I would say, rock bottom. Only for the fact that in the back of my mind, it was my hopes that during that rut, Heart Attack would just show up, and he didn't. And I had to really talk myself out of exploring the property. I wanted to get down, maybe a coyote got him. I think I got one photo of him in January and then didn't have trail cameras up for a brief window, so anything could have happened. My mind was going a mile a minute. And it was around the second week of December. I was maybe 2 miles away, 2.5 miles away as the crow flies, running baits here in Ontario. We can bait during hunting season. So I've ride my side by side up to the stand. It's noon. Throw a bag of rock stacker on my shoulder, and I walk in. And I've got my head down, just trying to give myself a pep talk. And I get to the base of the stand, and I look up, and there he is. He's 15 yards behind my trail camera. I just come out of a thicket, and we lock eyes. He turns instantly, blows and bounds off, and blows and blows and blows. And I just feel sick. I'm thinking 4 years of hunting, and this is what it's come down to. This is as close to this deer as I've got. I'm within 25 yards, and I got a bag of rack stacker on my shoulder instead of my bow. How can this be? I kind of lick my wounds, and I tell myself the rest of the season, I'm riding it out. It's Heart Attack or nothing. And I hunt from that point on right up until December 24th. I pushed it pretty hard. Probably should have came home a couple days earlier, spent some time with the family, but I had my mind set on this was going to work out. I top up my baits. Snow was supposed to come, and I'm home. December 24th, I unpack, I'm looking around, and I get a photo transfer at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And there he be, 22 yards from my stand, standing over top of rack stacker, and I'm at home about to tie into a turkey, a Christmas turkey, right? And that just tears me up. Because if this had been a traditional trail camera, I'd have set it up when I left camp, and I wouldn't have thought about that trail camera until I got back there on the 29th or 30th to close out the season. But now getting these live updates, it's kind of toying with you. So that evening goes by and Christmas Day rolls around, and I know there's about that much of a chance of me talking the missus into letting me go bow hunting on Christmas night. So I sit there and wait. I do what every guy does that has, cellular cameras when you're about to get a transfer and, a big buck's been visiting your stand. I find an excuse. I go out to the garage. No one's bugging me. And I watch that phone. 3:57, 3:58, 3:59, 4 o'clock, that transfer comes through. And Heart Attack is standing in front of my stand just before 4 o'clock. So it's 2 nights in a row. And then I figure, all right, I'm going to gamble. Maybe if I sweet talk and do some honey-do stuff, I can get out there and hunt Boxing Day. And I pitched the idea. The next morning, I pitched the idea. And for a second, I thought, I threw a bit of a curveball, explained to Britt the story about how I've been hunting this buck, threw a curveball at her, and she knocks it right out of the park. The answer is no, but she does let me go out to do a feed run because I did know, and I noticed in that photo, that rack stacker was quickly diminishing. We had got a bunch of snow, a bunch of deer had showed up, really pounded it, and I didn't want a day to go by without having a food source there. My thinking is heart attack's alive. He's gone through the rut. He's worn out. He's got to replenish that energy in his body. So I slide out there on the 26th. I bait. It's a good wind. The wind's coming from my stand to where I park the truck. I walk in midday, tiptoe in, drop off a couple bags, back out. And now I wait. And I'm getting nervous, right? Like, did I spook him on the walk in? What'd I do? Transfer comes on the 26th, and you guessed it, he's there. 3 nights in a row in front of my stand. The next morning rolls around, and I head out to camp. And I'm like, it feels like I've been punched in the gut because I'm thinking, did I lose my opportunity? I've got like a voice on each shoulder. This guy's saying, T, you've messed up. You should have been there yesterday. What are you doing? This is the biggest whitetail that you have a chance at. And then I've got this guy on my shoulder that says, just trust the trail cam. He's been there 3 nights in a row. He hasn't been bumped. There hasn't been a lot of activity. He should be back. And then this voice says, maybe you should try a different stand. Get closer to his bedding area. Make a move. Now's the time. There's a couple days left. And this guy says, trust the spy point. So I do. I get in the stand. It's 1:30, and I'm maybe there for 15 minutes. I look across the field, and there he is. He's 175 yards, came out in the hay field, and he's just feeding. And I think, this is how I'm going to close out my season. He was in front of my stand the last 3 nights. Now I get to watch him at 175 yards. I've been here. I bought the t-shirt. I know how that goes for the last 3 years. And I watch him for 2 hours. And he takes 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 1 step sideways, looking here, looking there. And then right at 3:30, he snaps his head up and he just starts making his way to us. Like V-line, just straight. Bobbing his head, walking in. He comes in within 33 yards. I 10-ring him, plant that arrow right where I want it. He goes down in 60 yards, and there is the story of heart attack. Had it been traditional trail cameras without that up-to-date intel, I wouldn't have been back until the 29th. My bait would have run out. Would he have still been there? I don't know. I don't like to gamble with those odds. I mean, with the technology to have those up-to-date live intel of what's going on, I mean, that really made me a believer on how cool and how effective these cellular cameras are. So that's one example, and I've got many examples on how that has helped us, whether we're placing those trail cameras out west on a fence line and get intel when herds of elk are coming into the field. It's just been absolutely incredible. Moving on to the second point on why I like rocking these spy points is just how user-friendly the app is, how easy it is to set up. And through that app, I mean, for those of you that have had spy points, you're going to know this. For those of you that might be thinking about getting them, I mean, they're super simple and they're user friendly. I can go through, I can adjust transfer times, I can adjust my burst rate, picture quality, all sorts of things. And where this has come in handy is where I've been delayed on a trip. I expect to be out, at my hunt camp in a few days. Something comes up, I can't make it there. I quickly look and go through all of my cameras. Any camera that has low batteries, I can switch those transfer times. So if I was getting 4 transfers a day, I bump those down to 1 transfer a day. If I had it set on burst of 3 photos, I go back to 1 photo. If I had it on 10-second intervals, I go to 1-minute intervals. Anything I can do to kind of buy myself some time so that I can get there. I'd rather have some pictures than no pictures at all. So being able to navigate through the app and to change stuff like that has been absolutely fantastic. And as far as setup, I don't need my computer. I've literally taken spy point boxes, opened them on the tailgate, and set them up on the tree minutes later. It's just been awesome. The last, I guess, kind of the third point about what I've been loving about these spy point is just the solar technology. So unfortunately, I don't have a micro solar here, but this is one of the original micro cams. The solar cam has a small solar panel on the top, and it's just been fantastic to be able to put a trail camera out and have that trickle charge, that rechargeable battery has been great. It's no doubt saved me trips going to and from my stand locations. It saved me money on AA batteries. It's just been great, and an awesome tool to take advantage of. So that's kind of why I like running those spy points. Now we'll get into how I go about setting them up. And trust me, I'd love to take each and every one of you for a walk in the woods so you can actually see like firsthand some of the things I'm looking at, but I'll do my best to try to paint a picture here and have you visualize what I go through. So trail camera setup 101, this works for me. I might be missing a few points that some of you might do. If I am, please leave a comment, let me know. But the first thing I want to do is find a good location. And whether this is a new spot or a spot that I've hunted in the past, I want to position my trail camera in the highest percentage area where that trail camera is going to be effective. Not necessarily am I going to put my trail camera on a fence post in a wide open field. Sure, you can get some photos of deer, but for me, it's just better suited when I get it into a core area. I mean, deer are fringe type animals. Position it well, and you're going to put that little trail camera in a good spot where it will see a lot of movement. Once I have my location set, I'm going to start looking for sign. And sign is trails, crossings, wallows. If you're out west, water holes early in the season. Maybe where a fence is lower or higher at the bottom of the fence, a beaver dam. Anything that's going to compress that animal movement are great spots to put a trail camera. Keep in mind, the trail camera only sees what's in front of it, right? So the better the spot you put that trail camera in, the higher probable odds of seeing animals. When you're in that right spot, you're going to get better photos. You're going to get more photos. You're going to get more intel on what's going on in your hunting area. Next, once I've kind of got that trail set, I'm going to think about access. How do I get in and out to check my trail cameras if I need to? A lot of the cases I've got my trail camera in front of my stand, and it's kind of funny because I wish I could track my movements on some of the hunting properties that we hunt. And very much like Ducks Unlimited would track the migratory patterns of a duck that they have tagged, where you can watch it fly here to there and then come back down on its migrational path. I really do think if you looked at, say a 100-acre property that I hunt, my line starts from where I park the vehicle or side-by-side or ATV to my stand, to my trail camera, to my bait, if we're hunting in Ontario where we can bait. But I follow that line. Very rarely do I ever walk around the bush and spread scent when it's not needed. I mean, yes, if we are successful, or we have a guest in camp that gets a deer, you have to do what you have to do. You have to walk around, you got to recover that animal. But for my day-to-day, it's a straight line. Parking spot to the stand to my trail camera. And I don't, if my stand is kind of like here and I've got a meadow out in front of us, I don't want to put my trail camera on the far side of that meadow, because if I do have any issues, I have to walk across that meadow, a couple times. And if those deer are using that meadow, I'm just laying down scent. So I keep my trail camera where I can just do those straight lines, just like a routine. I walk in, I beat my trail down, and I'm out. Next is distance. How far do I want to set my trail camera up from a trail, a certain trail? If I'm hunting deer, 10 to 12 feet, 3 to 4 paces seems good. If you put your trail camera, right up tight, perpendicular of a trail, but it's only 2 or 3 feet away, you're going to get a shot of a head, a rump, a shoulder, or half an antler. Like, what deer is that? I just want the animal in frame. So I'll position it. Again, if you can use bait or a mineral block, throw it down, get those deer coming to a certain area, and you're going to be able to frame up your camera so you can get a good photo. Obviously, if you're hunting moose or elk, bigger animals, you might want to back up a little bit more so you have a nice, clear picture of what's going on. Then I'm going to think about height. Again, this depends on what I'm after. If I'm turkeys, I'm going to set it down low. Bears, a little bit higher. Deer, for me, hip height works great, maybe a little bit lower. A lot of the cases, if you do place it low and you're in bear country, inevitably bears love to chew on trail cameras. So I'll try to place that trail camera up a bit higher and angled down. Keep in mind, when you do that, you're not going to have it, you'll get some photos where you can correctly judge what that deer is, but a lot of those cases, if you're facing down, it's hard to tell definitive features on what that deer has as far as headgear or certain characteristics of its body. I like keeping my trail camera low with a nice horizon in the background, especially nighttime photos. You can get those nice crisp clean photos of what that animal is. Before I commit to a tree, I'm also going to think about the direction of the sun. Just like we've all heard, and my mom's yelled at me, I'm sure yours has too, don't look into the sun when you were a kid and you went outside. Electronics and camera lenses, kind of the same thing. I don't want them facing directly into the rising sun or the falling sun. So I try to position them facing north, or if I take advantage of the solar panels on some of the trail cameras Spy Point's got, I'll face them south. I'll get a little bit of that sun flaring, but I'm going to get a lot of that sun that's going to keep that battery charged up. Big bonus for me is I try to maximize my trail camera and turn one trail camera kind of into two. So if I find a nice trail, I look for where there is a trail in the background or put it up where a couple trails meet so that I can set that trail camera up. Yes, I can get those animals on that second trail in or that third trail in, but if I do put a little mineral lick in front of that stand and or in front of that trail camera, and I even have a fawn sitting there, hitting the bait or licking the mineral lick, and it's taking photos of that doe or that fawn there, it's also showing me what's in the background. And a number of times we've got a picture of a button buck that you're just scrolling through the photos on the app and you're thinking, oh, it's just a button buck, button buck, button buck. Whoa, there's my target buck in the background. So think about placement of your trail camera where you can place it that you have the most odds of seeing what's going on behind that trail camera. Trail cameras, like I said, are one of the best scouting tools I think any hunter can use as far as intel or figuring out what's on that property, taking an inventory, but they do only show you what's in front of that trail camera. So just because your trail camera might not show you those big bucks, you should still be out there hunting. And a number of times I've been in the stand, I've had a deer come in, a doe, a fawn, or a smaller buck passes by. Had I been at home and not hunted and just watched the transfers, I would have thought I didn't miss much. However, being in the stand on those same nights, you always have those other deer that filter in that don't necessarily go by your trail camera, but you could still make a shot on those deer. You could still fill your tag. So trail cameras are great. I believe in them. Trust me, I do. But there is no bad time to be out there hunting because you just never know what's going to happen in the rut in November or late season into December. So that's kind of my rundown on trail camera setup 101. Now let's get into some of the settings that I used. So again, for me, I've used last year these micro cams along with the solar, the Link Micro S, that solar panel. That solar panel, again, has been so great. I set a trail camera up, I want to say it was around November 23rd, and that camera lasted until the end of turkey season this year, which has been insane. You're talking 7 months. Now, I do know a lot of your battery longevity is how often you're getting those transfers, what burst rate your photos are set at, how often they're set at, but still to be able to get that intel, even if you're getting one transfer a day, one photo every minute, it's just great. And it really has extended the life on our trail cameras and gave me the confidence that I can set up a trail camera and I don't necessarily have to be back there in 2 weeks to replace the AA batteries. Transfer times. Now, this is something, it's kind of like user preference, and I'm sure everyone has their own kind of regime on what they use for transfer periods. I kind of start it like this. When I'm not hunting, when I'm scouting, I'll do one transfer a day. I'll have my interval set to 1 minute. And to me, that gives me enough intel on what's going on. I can take inventories of the deer that are on the property. and you don't have to really drain those batteries. When it rolls into hunting season and I'm around and I might need to make a quick move out to hunt camp, I'll set it for 2 transfers a day, and I'll probably still keep that interval set at 1 minute. I might drop down to 10 seconds, but as soon as you do that, if you are hunting an area where you can use bait or over top of a food source and there's lots of deer there, you're going to get a ton of photos and you're going to be scrolling through all of those photos. When it comes time that I'm actually in camp, I'm going to opt on at least the cameras that I have in front of the stands. I'm going to go 4 transfers a day. Later on in the season, I want to get that at least 1 transfer at 4 in the morning. I find this has helped us, especially late in the year. Getting into your stand in the morning, you tend to bust a lot of deer. So having that transfer happen at 4 in the morning or 4:30, just before we go out, allows me to know if my big buck was there, or like if he'd left at 10 o'clock at night. That's cool. But if he's there 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, I don't want to be passing him on my way into the stand, because that's only going to set him off of his schedule. So transfer times are something I play around with. And inevitably, when you do get, if you haven't got a cellular cam and you do get one, you're going to set it to instant transfers. It's just, you have to. You've got to see how it works. And when you do have multiple trail cameras set to instant, I've literally had this phone on my nightstand vibrate off my nightstand, hit the floor, and then vibrate underneath my bed, and I've got to go crawling for it the next morning. So I appreciate the instant transfers. It's amazing, and I do use them on, I would call them my scout cams. So where this comes into play, I'll have my stand set up, I'll have my camera in front of my stand doing the 4 transfers, and then just on 1 or 2 main trails where I really expect, my target buck or a mature buck to be coming from, I'll set those trail cameras up on instant, because they're not getting a lot of photos. They don't have a congregation of a lot of deer activity in front of them, but it allows me to get a heads up. And this has helped us slide out of the stand early, especially when you're waiting there before dark. The last thing I want to do is have a mature buck come in and then I run out of legal shooting light. Yeah, you can still see. Legally, you can't shoot and you're stuck in the stand, or you call it and you try to get down. He blows off, because that's just going to set him back 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And then suddenly he's not even coming on the fringe of daylight. He's showing up at 10 o'clock at night. And for any of you that have been down this, a deer that is nocturnal, that's showing up from like 10 at night or 1 in the morning, that is an extremely hard deer to find during the daylight. That's a wise buck, likely been pressured. So I try to minimize any of the pressuring that I can by hunting smart and watching where I go or how I use that intel before I start messing up the spot. Burst rate and interval delays. So this is something I do toy with. If I'm have the trail camera set up over top of a food source, I might cut that burst rate back down just to taking 1 photo. A lot of the cases, some of those hungry does can come in and they'll be there for an hour and a half, and it's just boop, 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 rapid fire, draining my battery. In a lot of the cases, I'm in the stand. It's not needed. My eyes are acting as my scouting tool when I'm in the stand. So I'll bump that burst rate down to 1 photo. Where I will use a burst rate is I love setting a trail camera up on the edge of a field and putting some attractant out, because as long as I have a deer on top of that attractant, whether that be some rock stacker or a mineral lick or something, as long as the deer's in front of me, and I don't care whether it's a spike buck, a fawn, or a doe, again, it's taking photos of what's happening in that field in the background. And at least 3 or 4 cases, we've caught glimpses of a buck as it's taking photos, and as you're scrolling through the app, you can see that buck getting closer, getting closer, getting closer. And regardless of whether he comes into your setup or not, I know he's in the area. And we've actually moved locations and set up on that buck and connected. Kind of like using the camera on a time-lapse setting. So I do mess around with all of those settings, and it has helped us have a lot of success in the field. So that's kind of how I use it, why I use it, my trail camera setup 101, some new gear here. This right here, this little puppy is the new Spy Point Flex. You probably saw some advertisements for it. It hit the market roughly a month ago, and there's so many great features Spy Point has jammed in this little puppy. It's available at Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops. It does photos, it does video. On the inside here, it has a format button, so no longer do I need to carry my laptop with me in order to format my micro SD card. You can do that in the camera. It has a test button, so I can be sure that that camera is working before I leave my hunting spot. And the kind of like creme de la creme is I can push firmware updates through the app. So as long as I'm connected to the app and I'm connected to my trail camera, I can update those firmwares on the new Spy Point Flex. Oh, another cool thing. So, I mean, this is just a small detail, but it's come in handy. So I watched a few years ago, I watched a friend of mine tie a knot in my trail camera strap. And before I gave him crap thinking, I'm just gonna have to take that out. It's like, whoa, Taylor. No, you don't. Here's why. If I just run the strap through that trail camera, a lot of us, especially in Eastern Ontario or Quebec, bigger trunk trees, you're trying to pass that trail camera around the back of it, and inevitably the trail camera slides out of your hand, or you grab the strap, the trail camera slides off the strap, and then you gotta put it back through. If you tie a knot on there, it simply just acts to hold your trail camera. So now you can grab the strap, I can swing this around the tree and catch it, and I don't have to worry about fumbling the trail camera. So just a simple little knot in the backside of your strap goes a long way. So there you have it. That's our Trail Camera 101. I hope you've picked up on some tips or tricks that you're able to try. If you haven't dove into the cellular trail camera market, I don't think you can go wrong. And a place to start would be visiting our friends at Cabela's or Bass Pro Shop. Talk to one of their knowledgeable outfitters, and they'll get you well on your way to being set up to hit the field this fall. Once again, it is the Fall Hunting Classic that's going on right now. Don't miss out on the savings and some of the incredible deals. If you have any comments, please leave them here. Hop onto our website, send me an email, hop onto our Facebook or Instagram page. I'll do my best to respond to each and every comment. I assure you of that. Best of luck out there. And again, any fishing, hunting, outdoor related supplies, our friends over at Cabela's can help you out. And speaking about fishing, I'm going to drop that tracker in the lake and try to go beat up on some big bucket mouse tonight. So thanks for joining us, Cabela. It's been an absolute honor to be here. And I'll give you the keys back to your Facebook Live site. Take care, everyone. Have a great season.